Crowd's coming. They're waiting.
I can hear it. Oh, you got out.
Song of the day. Oldie but a goodie.
I love that. It's Monday.
It's your song. It's perfect for what you're talking about today. Stacy, what are we talking about today?
It is how we do it.
Yay! We love that topic because that means you actually have to do something.
What a concept. So it's really great to talk, and it's really great to learn, and it's really great to plan. But if you don't do anything with any of it, then it's all a waste of time.
Totally a waste of time. And then we've wasted our time talking to everybody, right? If you're not watching these lives and actually implementing what we're telling you to do, then you know what? Don't use these lives as a procrastination tool.
I know all about that. I'm going to be completely transparent. I used and sometimes use learning as a procrastination tool.
Absolutely. Most of us do.
Yep. It's a great procrastination tool because you can say, but I don't know it yet. And I'm going to learn it. And I'm not done learning. And guess what happens? You're never done learning.
No. And that's why if you're doing any of the modules, well, the stuff that I teach or that Stacy teaches, we always say the same thing. We'll always say, stop, do the work. Stop here, do the work. Because you can watch something right through, no problem, because some people like to watch the whole training module and then go back and do it. But the whole point is the reason you get downloadable workbooks means that you're supposed to do the work.
What a concept.
But what if somebody says, you know what, I got this strategy, it's awesome, but I just don't know what to do now?
Well, and so last week we learned about strategy. We learned about how to take that idea and start to plan it out, which is fantastic. And that's really where it has to start because I'm a big proponent. You can't market a podcast without a podcast. You can't, what did I actually hear? You can't market on social media without social media accounts. So somehow in our world, we think that this miraculously happens. Right? We have a plan and it miraculously happens. And if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, the magic fairy dust comes sprinkling on you and you're all of a sudden you're done. No, it doesn't work that way. Sorry.
But even in Field of Dreams, he had to build the field.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think people miss is they said, but he had the field. Well, he didn't. He actually had to go get a tractor and he had to plow the trees down and he had to build the field. He had to put the markers for the baseball diamonds. He had to do the markers for the field. So he actually had to do the work. So yes, he built it and they will come, but he had to do a lot to build it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yay. Well, that's the most important key of everyone always wants to be successful. They want to launch programs or do coaching or help, build their bricks and mortar business. But the truth is everyone's always looking for that secret magic pill. So they go on to all these online trainings and they're looking for it. But the secret pill is really getting it done.
To do the work. So what I want to teach you today is sort of my 3 things that you need in order to start to make things happen. So basically what we're doing is we're taking your idea and we're taking your strategy and we're putting it into production. And the first thing that I do when I think about putting something into production is I start with a system. Stacy has a system, which basically means to understand the things that you need. So going back to my Field of Dreams example, in order for him to build a field, he needed to get a tractor. So if you're going to, so I think it's really funny when people say, okay, well, I want to do an online course. Great. That's awesome. Right. Well, what are the things that you need? What's the system that you need to do? So first, to do an online course, you would need to actually create the presentation. Maybe before that, you need the idea. Maybe before that, you need to actually poll your audience on what you're going to build the course on. You need to have a way. So basically your system, and it's a little bit challenging because everybody works differently. But basically your system is your step-by-step process, that to put things into production. So how are you going to implement this? So what do you need to have? What do you need to do? You need to record. You need to create. So what kind of course are you creating? I saw a girl today, for her online course, she's not necessarily doing a talking head, she's doing a talking body in front of a TV. So her TV is where the presentation is going to be. So you need to take the time and create the steps so that you know the system to follow. Because the last thing you want to do is go, you know what? I want to create another online course. How did I do that again? When I was in my corporate days, we had to be ISO 14001 certified. 14,000, there was another one, 9002, I'm sorry. And to be 9002 certified, you had to have systems for everything, meaning that, in order for an event to happen, well, we need to first let people know that there's an event. We need to tell them the date of the event. You need to go book a place for the event. And sometimes that's online, which means you need to go and book. Maybe you need to schedule the Zoom room. In order for this to happen, I needed to create the StreamYard link. We needed to create a time for this to happen. We needed to figure what we were going to talk about. So breaking down that into very manageable steps are very important to understand how you systemize things. You think about cooking, same concept, right? What's the system? I need to add the flour before I add the sugar, before I add the eggs. I have no idea about cooking. I don't even know what that would make.
Yeah, that's okay. That's like me talking about fish.
But the problem is that it's great to plan it out and it's great to do things. But the thing is that implementation, you need to actually make the time. So you need a system. So 3 things you need. You need a system so that you know the steps to follow in order to get that done. And the second thing you need to understand is the tools you need to make that happen. So
that's key.
This is really important. This is the big, yeah, exactly. So again, maybe you need, what do you need to create a course? Maybe you need PowerPoint or Keynote. Do you have those tools? If you're going live, do you have the light that you need to make sure people can see you? Do you have the microphone? This is all equipment, but you need a way to physically do that. So one of our tools, obviously, we use is StreamYard. So I needed to make time to go get StreamYard. So that is all part of the system, but it's also implements with the tools that you need to make it happen. I know Colin's here, and I'm sure he would be like, well, in order to track your numbers, you probably need Excel.
Yeah.
Or you need to write them down.
Or you need Colin to track them for you. Either way.
Exactly. And there is no secret pill. Thank you, Carolyn, that she's just emphasizing that. There is no secret pill to make this happen. The joy of production is that you can outsource some production. And I'm not telling you to outsource it to me because I'm not your person when it comes to putting a lot of this stuff together. But I do have systems for all the things that I do. Hence, we use Trello, and that's my system. And literally, if you think about it, we've done Trello before. Maybe I'll do just a whole training on that. But basically, my system is taking things through a process, right? I'm literally dragging a card. Have I signed up for an account? If I want to launch a podcast, I need to have an account to do that. So have I done that piece? So basically, it's understanding all the pieces that you need and all the tools that you need to get there. So if I think about video, I need a way to record video. How am I going to do that? I can think of all kinds of things. Again, going back to Field of Dreams, in order to create the field, he needed the white paint to put on the baseball diamond, right? Like you need to think about all the tools that you need to make that happen and make sure that you have those tools. And the third one,
before you go, Stacey, to 3, just want to make sure everyone understands we're not telling you have to go buy everything because that's what Tech Tuesday is all about. We've been telling you shortcuts. We've been telling you a lot to use your phone, right? Microphone, recording, video. So we're not telling you to go buy, the mics we use or go buy a HD cam. So just make sure you understand that. So, and the reason I'm pushing it out, I don't want you to use it as an excuse. Oh, I don't have the right camera and therefore I can't record. Not true, because those of you who have been with us on Tech Tuesday know that's an excuse.
Yeah, and you can use your phone.
Yes.
This is a really great tool, people. You can almost do everything on it.
Yep.
Okay.
So now number 3.
So this, I know you said tools was the most important, but number 3 is by far the most important.
Absolutely.
Because you can have a system and you know what to do. You can have the tools and you're ready. But number 3, you have to make the time.
You have to schedule it in.
You have to make time. Like, I'm sorry, these things take time.
Yep.
To go and create that account. And I want to sort of talk about what social media strategy looks like using all of these 3 things, but you have to take the time to do it. If you don't make time, it will never happen. It's really that simple. So Anthea is confirming that every successful business has a strong foundation built with systems and processes. Yes, 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 and yes. Right?
And you don't have to think that, oh, I don't have a process, I can't do it, or I don't have a system. It's your system. It's not like you can learn how other people do things, but at the end of the day, it's what works for you that's going to get it done. So, I was having a discussion yesterday about Trello boards with someone, and I said the difference between how 2 different people use the same information. And interestingly enough, she was the opposite of me. She used what the other person did, and which was absolutely right, because it's right for her. So however your brain can walk you through the process, that's the one you use.
And I think it's interesting when you talk about systems, because I think people think they don't have one. But then I would say, well, how do you do laundry? I bet you have a system for that. I bet you go around to all the rooms and you put them all in a basket, and then you take the basket down to wherever your laundry room is. You follow a system. And when you think about everything that you do, you could literally teach somebody the system in which to do it. So remember,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
When I was working with Godiva, and I had new stores opening, and I remember hiring young people, like really young, high school students, and I would say to clean the shelves in the store, and it would be fascinating because they'd never cleaned it, so they would start at the bottom. That's not the right system, right? Everybody who's ever cleaned shelves knows you have to start at the top because the dust falls down. That's the system. That's the framework. That's the process of doing something. But unless they've done it, they don't know. You have, as Stacy said, a process that you work through. So you just have to identify what that is.
Yeah, really funny story. I remember my dad was working in a different city for like 6 months or whatever. So he had to unfortunately learn how to do laundry. Yeah. So I had to break it down to the very minute steps. And so if somebody else can follow that step, then they would get the job done. So what I did is I wrote down, get the box of laundry detergent and put it in the washing machine.
Yeah.
What step did I miss?
That to actually pour the detergent. Did he put the whole box in the washing machine?
Well, what I forgot to say was open the box.
And put the clothes in.
But there was a whole slew of things that you can miss when you think about your systems. Everyone does have a system. So
absolutely. And everyone's is different, because when somebody's in your kitchen or in your house and they're doing something differently than you kind of look at it and go, why do you do it that way? Because that's not your system, right?
Like me, why would you unload the dishwasher, the top rack first? That doesn't make sense in my brain.
Yeah.
Because then I'm pouring potentially water over the clean, dry dishes on the bottom. But yet something else that makes sense. So think about all the things that you do, and you do have a system. And I like the fact that, Faye, you emphasize the fact that not one system is good for everybody.
No, not at all.
So when we think about, let's think about social media, that's sort of my big process. And I used to do a lot of work in social media and strategy and stuff like that. And it was always the implementation that somebody always had a hard time with. So we would map out literally a month's worth of content. So that's the plan, right? Post this, find the link, whatever the case may be, an image here and an image there, a quote or whatever the case may be. But then they had to implement. So they literally had to follow the system of, first having to write the copy.
Right.
What are you going to say? So all of that was part of it. But then they had to do the next step, which was create the graphic. And that was where a lot of people fell short on the process. But if you thought about it, first, they had to create the copy, then they had to create the image that they were going to put with that copy. Well, do they have a social media account? We had to know that first. So then, of course, they had to go over to Facebook. They had to open Facebook. They had to go to where they were going to post, whether a page or personal profile. They had to schedule that or post it immediately. There's actually a lot of steps to just posting on social media, but they had to take the time to do that.
Yeah.
And the tools that they needed, maybe it was Canva, which is free. That's a really great place to find templates. Obviously they needed Facebook. That's a tool. Facebook's a tool. Instagram's a tool. You can't put on Facebook.
Facebook for your business is actually to get you business, right? It's not really to just chat with your friends. Right?
Yes.
So.
It's actually for business. And maybe, maybe you're the person that wants to bulk schedule. Maybe you want to, I just want everything to go out. I want to do it once a week. And that's good. Well, then you need scheduling software. And there's a lot of free ones out there. And we'll talk about some tools tomorrow that are going to help you with various aspects of putting all of this together. But you have to block time. And you have to block time to do it. So depending on how you work, and Faye, I just want you to talk. I know we've talked about this before, but blocking your calendar, scheduling your time, you're a master at that.
Yeah, you have to. It's very simple, guys. You just work backwards. Number one, so pick a date first. So if you want to, you want to work towards getting we just talked about lead magnets, of doing a downloadable PDF for somebody. If you want to know that you want to launch this in 2 weeks from now, you put the launch date in your calendar first. So you say on, September 15th, I want this PDF done and launched, and then you work backwards. Well, how long is it going to take you? So then you start blocking time before then to do it. So block time, 2 hours this week, 2 hours next week, whatever it takes, or block a full day. Whatever you can find in your calendar. But if you don't chunk it out backwards, then the launch date's a moving target. And that's with anything. So if you want to, remember, we talked about this, scaling things in. If you work in, you're working in your schedule. You're allowed to do something else. And the purpose of scheduling, however, not allowed to move. So if you have emergency appointment, you have to do something. But you
and she's gone. So there was obviously a problem on her end in regards to the internet. So we apologize for that. I know a couple of people said they were having a hard time with their end. But basically, what she's saying in regards to any sort of event, any sort of plan, is to work backwards and make sure that that's in your calendar. So if, and understand the amount of time you think that that's going to take. So going back to my social media example, if you want to bulk create some stuff for social media, make sure that you block, how long is that going to take? Maybe it's going to take an hour. When are you going to do that? Block that hour. If you're going to create a course, when are you going to create the presentation? What does that look like? And block the time to make that happen. What ends up happening, unfortunately, when we talk about systems is that we don't block the time, which is why I said number 3 was so important, because we end up getting, maybe we get clients, and that's great. We need to block that time for clients as well. We obviously need to make money. So we need to put all of that stuff in the calendar first, and then make sure that we're blocking time to work on our business as well, and work on the systems and make sure that we have the tools. The reason that I said to have the tools ready before you start blocking your calendar off, is so that, again, we don't have that excuse that we're not ready.
Okay, guys,
So
can you hear me?
you can now.
I see me, but I don't see Stacy. All right, so I'm just going to keep talking.
So continue. So I was just summarizing some stuff that you were talking about in regards to your calendar, and how that fits into the whole process. And she's still not there. Barely. Barely. You're definitely cutting in and out. I can probably pick up a word here and there. But Colin's saying if you don't block the time, the day-to-day stuff will get in the way. And then clients jump in. Well, yes, we want clients. Obviously, that's the whole point of this. But your day-to-day stuff will definitely get in the way, because then you can go, oh, I ran out of time today, and oh, I ran out of time tomorrow. But kind of like the plan, if you don't honor, and Faye has taught me this for many years around honoring your calendar. And she's talked about that before, that if you move things multiple times in your calendar, then you're not going to get it done. So you need to honor your calendar. If you're saying from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, you're going to work on your presentation for your course that you're creating, then from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, that's what you need to work on. And the reason that I said kind of build that system out first is so that you can literally look at the, have I got this done? Yep. Have I got this done? Yep. And do I have the tools needed? So if you don't have PowerPoint or Keynote, or maybe you're going to use something different, make sure you have that tool ready so that when you sit down at 1 o'clock, you're ready to go in your focused time, rather than, okay, well, what tool did I need again? And then you're spending your hour looking for the tool that you need, or maybe downloading that, or you're taking your hour and you're building out that system of, I'm going to do this first, I'm going to do this second. So there's lots of planning. I'm a big planner. I'm a big proponent of systems, and making sure that you know what you're going to do when you sit down at your computer, because the worst thing, especially when it comes to really anything that you're doing, you literally put your fingers on the keyboard or your mouse or whatever, and you're like, now what? Now what am I going to do? So it's very challenging, and it does take up a lot of time when you're sitting there going, well, what should I do now? Should I work on this, or should I do this, or maybe I should do that? So it's not enough to put in your calendar, I'm going to work on my business for this hour. No, be specific. I'm going to work on the course that I'm creating. I'm going to work on finalizing my coaching packages during this hour. I'm going to, find the tool that I need before I get started, or I'm going to download this particular thing, or I'm going to do research for, my lead magnet that I'm going to create, or I'm going to determine the best type of lead magnet. If you're going to do a video, maybe you've blocked off some time because you want to create some videos for your social media feed. Okay, well, plan those down. What videos are you going to do? What's the topic you're going to talk about? And Faye's back again. Let's see if this works. Find the charm. Come on, baby.
That's okay. You like having the stage to yourself, so I'm good.
And I can just keep talking. So I think we're good now.
I'm good. I think I'm good now. Connection's a little wonky here, but that's how it goes.
That's okay. Welcome back. So if you can, because unfortunately we did not hear because your internet was. What?
You heard nothing I said.
No. So I kind of jumped ahead and was talking about honoring your calendar and being specific in regards to what you're scheduling, but talk to us again about what that looks like.
I don't know what you heard, probably nothing, but essentially we've talked about it before, and it's really quite simple. It's a matter of putting a due date in first, right? So, and working backwards. So if you go ahead and schedule something in, say you need something done September 15th, and that's the day you go live, you launch, whatever it is. Now you have to work backwards and chunk those times out. So if you know it's going to take you, 10 hours to get this done, you need to block your schedule from now till that date. You have 10 hours, that's what it'll take. You need to block them into your schedule, and you need to actually keep them, because the problem is we don't really honor our time. and we say, oh, I'll do it later, and later never comes. So when you open your calendar, whatever's in it, you have to get that done. And you guys have heard me say this before. You are allowed to move it if you have an emergency or something comes up. But if you move it 3 times, you need to get rid of it because you will never get it done. And you need to be honest with yourself and say, there's something holding me back from doing this. So I recognize it's not going to happen. That's it. But you need to understand that, go ahead.
So what about something that, okay, so let's talk about something like creating a lead magnet. So
what you guys are doing.
So I've determined that for my particular lead magnet, I want to do a tip sheet. So I've created put time in my calendar, an hour to write out what those tips look like. But I keep moving that particular item forward. Right. Well, I can't delete it out of my calendar because I still want to do it. So what do I do in that case? So
you still want to doesn't mean anything to me. I want to do a lot of things, right? I want to learn how to fish. No, I don't. But I don't do it. Like, I want to do a lot. And if I ask most of you listening, there are lots of things you want to do. There's a difference between wanting to do something and committing to doing it. So the issue really becomes you have to identify why you're not doing it. Why? So is it because and that's just a process. Is it because you don't know how? And be honest with yourself. Do you not know how to do it? If you don't, great. You have identified the issue. Find somebody that can help you do it, right? Number 2 is a self-confidence thing. Are you afraid of putting your message out there and getting people to read it, and you're afraid somebody might, give you negative reviews? Again, then you have to work on that whole confidence piece. Maybe you have to go work with a confidence coach. Maybe you need to do some studying on your own. Why are you not confident in putting it out there, right? There's really only a couple of reasons. And then the third is simply that you're just don't feel like doing it. Like, you'd rather just hang out and do something else. And it doesn't matter. That's a perfectly valid reason. But then don't say you want to do it, because you don't, because you're sitting around hanging out is something you prefer to do than do the work.
Absolutely. Own it. I just, I don't know if Anthea's still on, but she's a perfect example of the fact that she did not have the time to create her lead magnet. She was able to write it, but she did not want to take the time, or didn't have the time, whatever the case may be, to kind of make it all pretty. So she outsourced that. So this is where you get to make decisions in your production process, which is kind of what this whole thing is. When you put things into production, what pieces do you want to do, and what pieces can you then outsource? So she went to Fiverr and she found someone that can do it. And you wait until you see it. It is stunning. Like, it is so good. It looks fantastic. It looks professional, and way better than I could do. I know that.
And the other thing that we talked to you guys about before as well, there are things that we can do, you can do, that you're capable. You just take longer than someone else. So those are the times that you have to say, how much is my time worth, right? So if you can go on Fiverr and get it done for $20 or $100, whatever it is, and it takes you 0 time except for clicking on the cart and sending them your information, so literally 10 minutes. And so if you have that, and it would take you 3 hours, and you have 3 hours back in your schedule, what could you do with 3 hours, right? Could you make more money? Probably. So again, that's another thing to look at. If you do keep pushing those things out in your calendar, to start to identify what's holding you back from, the biggest thing about making it happen is this piece. This is the piece where it's the physicality, it's the technical, it's the it's logistics. And I guess I always go back to logistics when people talk about ideas, and it's like, okay, well, I remember in my corporate days, people would have these grandiose ideas of, I want to do this lunch and learn. And I'm like, great. When? Well, I don't have time. Then you can't do a lunch and learn. You can't. And then it's like, well, our biggest challenge, because it was carpet tiles.
So all of the conference rooms had carpet. That doesn't work. Carpet on carpet doesn't work.
No.
So it's like, well, there's no, then you need a caterer and you need to supply food, and there's lots of little things, and it's the little things that's part of the production. So my biggest thing that I want to, say here is, number one, make the time. Number two, know the little things that you need to do, know the tools that you need, and block it in your calendar.
Yeah. And the truth is, weigh it out. Like, how much do you really, want to do this and are willing to commit to, right? Because you're taking that idea, right? You got your idea, you put together your strategy, you know what to do. And now you're like, oh, it's going to take me it's going to take me 20 hours. I'm not willing to do that. Okay, then that's fine. But you actually, you have to say that out loud, not I'll do it later. Because later's never going to happen, guarantee you.
Or if it's going to take you 20 hours, could you give 10? And what else could you outsource that you can get those 10 hours back so that other people can do it? I think the biggest hold up right now, because I have a bunch of clients that are onboarding for podcasts and they want it done quickly. And the one thing that holds them back is their description.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. I'm like, I need a description of what your podcast is about. Oh, I don't think I have time to put that together. I'm like, that's 2 paragraphs. So you don't want it that badly. And I don't mean to be specific, but I mean, you have to make the time to send me information, or you need to make the time, or you need to hire somebody to make a graphic, for your podcast art, like whatever the case may be. And it's fascinating when they continually push back. So then I start to ask, do you really want to make this happen? Because there's certain steps that need to take place. And we have a very frozen screened Faye. I should take a screenshot right now because it's very funny. You're frozen, like you're very fascinated by what I'm saying and very happy about what I'm saying. And she may or may not be there. Well, it's a different frozen screen on Facebook than it is on my screen, which is very funny, but that's okay. She just looks really, really happy with what I'm saying. I think I'm just going to say that. So think about what your system would look like. Again, take your strategy. What do you want to accomplish? What works for your business? And then take each of those pieces and break it down into smaller steps. So in a way that almost like you could give it to somebody else and they could do it. Write down the steps that need to happen. And the reason I wanted to emphasize writing down those steps, or at least understanding what that system is, so that we're not reinventing the wheel every time. Or if you have something new that you want to do, can you take some of the steps from here and they're already mapped out? And when you go to sit down, you know what those steps are. Okay, I'm on step 3. Okay, I'm going to take that, and that's what I'm going to work on right now because that's what I dedicated in my calendar to do. The more specific that you can be in your planning, the easier it is when you go to sit down to actually put all of that into production. And again, understanding what pieces of the production you actually want to do and what pieces of the production that you do want to outsource to make sure that everything does happen if you actually do want to make that happen. So unfortunately, I'm just going to write a couple of the comments. So Heather is, sometimes the person isn't clear enough about the podcast or that they speak easier than they can write it. So record yourself and then translate it. So very easy. And again, that's understanding you. It's understanding what that looks like and where your strengths are. So if your strengths are in writing, you can have somebody else record it. If your strengths are recording it, you can have somebody else transcribe that. So how can you deliver information? Absolutely. And that's where you need to understand, again, what your system's going to be and the tools that you need to follow that system. And then, of course, creating time in your calendar to make sure that that happens. So my sidekick has left me. I think her internet is going a little wonky this morning where she is. So I'm actually going to leave you guys with that. And I would like to know, maybe in the comments a little bit later, if you're watching this, do you have a system? I'd like to know what works for you. And do you follow more of a linear system, and that's me, and I know that that's Faye as well. We literally click through. So I create a system on my Trello board and I literally follow it through. But I know a lot of people who are a little bit more non-linear. So maybe they have mind map bubbles in different aspects. So, they take this piece and they, here are all the tasks that I need to do around it. And they're not linear thinkers. So again, just because we love Trello, the two of us, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you, because maybe you're not that linear person. But think about the system that's going to work for you. Make sure that you have the tasks and the tools that you need, and then block the time. And that's where you turn into a producing machine where you can actually make all of this happen. So have a great Monday, everyone. I look forward to seeing all of your fabulous stuff now that you understand a little bit more of how to build your strategy and know how to put it into action. So have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend. Have a great Monday, I should say, because it's the beginning of the week. So you can actually spend some time getting all of this done. And I will see you tomorrow. So tomorrow, join us here Tuesday at noon. And we're going to talk about some tools that you can use that can help with your systems and help with your planning process and making those step-by-step kind of instructions kind of thing to make that happen. We'll see you then.